was totally out of the blue. It was Sunday lunchtime. We just got back from church and I got a text message from a girl who works in the nursery where Madeleine, Sean and Anne went, and it just said, saw your diary in the newspapers, heartbreaking, I hope you're all right. And it was totally out of the blue, and I had that horrible panicky feeling, confusion, and you know, what's she on about? I didn't have a clue. We rapidly found out it was in the News of the World. I went and looked at it online, which was 5 pages, including the front page. I got my original handwritten copy of my diary out and sat there, and it was lifted in its entirety and put in the newspaper without my knowledge. And apart from the odd word, which was I think it was a translational error in that it had obviously been taken, translated into Portuguese, and then the Portuguese copy had then been translated back to English, which was slightly different to the original, but pretty much verbatim. And it's just been put there, and I felt totally violated. You know, I'd written these words and thoughts at the most desperate time in my life. I mean, most people won't have to experience that, and it was my only way of communicating with Madeleine. And for me, you know, there was absolutely no respect shown for me as a grieving mother or as a human being, or for my daughter, and it made me feel very vulnerable and small. And I mean, I just couldn't believe it, and it didn't stop there. I mean, it's not just a one-day thing. I mean, that whole week was incredibly traumatic, and every time I thought about it, I just couldn't believe the injustice. And you know, I actually just recently read through my diary entries at that point at that week, and I talk about climbing into a hole and not coming out because I just felt so worthless that we've been treated like this.
Can we just be clear as to the provenance of the diary? You mentioned the Portuguese translation, which may be a clear indication of provenance, but perhaps I can take this quite shortly. That the judicial or police authorities in Portugal had obtained or had seized a copy of your diary, or perhaps it was the original, in August 2007. Is that right?
Yeah,
we're talking about a hard copy manuscript document.
So it's just handwritten. They'd come and said that they were taking clothes from the villa and we had to leave. And when we got back later that day, I noticed that they'd also taken my diaries as well, which I have to say was a little bit of a shock for other reasons anyway. And they did come back to me about 24 or 48 hours later, so
right.
I retained the original copy.
Yes.
But so obviously photocopies were taken during that period.
Yes, it wasn't clear to you from your statement, but it now is, that it was within quite a short space of time that the original was returned to you, you believe by order of a Portuguese judge, so it sounds as if the initial seizure had been a step too far or whatever, but a copy of the original must have been taken by someone, presumably someone within the Portuguese police or judicial authorities. Is that correct?
I think it's clear that the police had copied the journal and had it translated. And of course at the time we didn't understand why the journal could have been relevant, because Kate only started keeping it a couple of weeks after Madeleine was taken. So we didn't know there was a copy until the file was released the following summer. But within the file, the Portuguese judicial file, there is an order from the judge who's read the translation and says this is of no interest to the investigation. It's Kate's personal thoughts and should not, and they actually use the word violation,
the use of which would be a violation of its author,
and ordered that any copies be destroyed.